So, square root of 16. So this is asking us, what two identical numbers can you multiply together to get 16? You could do 4, right? Because 4 times 4 is 16. Or you could do negative 4, because negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So we typically write this plus or minus 4. Now, how about the square root of negative 16? Are there two numbers that you can multiply together that are identical to each other to get negative 16? No. Okay, so we're going to come back to this, because in order to get an answer for this, we need to use imaginary numbers. And we're going to define what imaginary numbers are. Okay? All right, let's go to the next thing. This first problem on the left is what we've been doing. Find the roots of the polynomial. And roots, we mean x-intercepts or zeros. And we would get those by setting this equal to 0 and then factoring this polynomial. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 1. So how about minus 3 and plus 2? Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So then what we would do is go x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and we would solve these. And we would learn that the roots are 3 and negative 2. Let's do a quick graph here. 3 is an x-intercept. Negative 2 is an x-intercept. How about the y-intercept? It's right there, negative 6. How about the right-hand behavior? Up, because its lead coefficient is positive. And how about the left? Same, because it's even. So this is going to look something like that. Okay? Alright, that's just a little review. Now we're going to go way back and we're going to solve the identical equation using the quadratic formula. Do y'all remember what that is? Alright, well let's do it. First of all, you have to have an equation that looks like this. It has to be a quadratic trinomial. And underneath it, I'm going to write the equation that's up here. Okay. So I just wrote that there. There's no number in front of the x squared, so what's the number? 1. There's no number in front of the negative x, so what's the number? 1. Okay? So we have a quadratic trinomial. The first thing we have to do is identify the the coefficients, the a, the b, and the c. And so the number in front of the x squared is 1, so a equals 1. The number in front of the x is negative 1, so b equals negative 1. And the constant is negative 6, so c equals negative 6. Now, if you look down at the bottom of the page, I gave you the quadratic formula as a little reminder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this using parentheses instead of the a, b, and the c values. So we know x equals minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's Pop Goes the Weasel in slow-mo. Okay, so what I like to do, because I tend to make mistakes with signs, especially when I do negatives of negatives, I rewrite the equation with all parentheses, and then I plug in the a, b, and c values. So x equals minus b, negative 1, plus or minus square root b squared, negative 1, minus 4a, 1, c, negative 6, all over 2a, 1. Okay? Now, what I do is I start solving this in chunks, 3 chunks. I do this first part right here. What's negative times negative? Positive 1. Plus or minus. Then I go to the denominator. What's 2 times 1? 2. That's the easy part. Then I write the square root symbol and I figure out what's underneath. So what's negative 1 squared? Positive 1. Okay. And then we have, see how we have a minus and a minus? That's positive. So what's 4 times 6? 24. So we have 1 plus 24 is 25. Okay? So now we have 1 plus or minus over 2. The square root of 25 is 5. And we already have the plus or minus out in front. Okay? Now, what this plus or, oh, you know the other thing I'm going to do? I'm going to put the whole upstairs in parentheses. Because we have a plus and a minus here, we have 2 answers. The first answer is 1 plus 5 divided by 2. And the second answer is 1 minus 5 divided by 2. 1 plus 5 is 6, over 2 is 3. 1 minus 5 is negative 4, over 2 equals negative 2. Oh, and you can't see that. Oops, there we go. So, what are our 2 answers? X equals 3, and x equals negative 2. Do you notice anything here? Yeah, look at this and that are the same, and this is the same as that. Sweet. It is. It is. Quadratic formula is way much more work if you can factor. But what happens if you can't factor? Then you got to do quadratic formula. But the key is, the thing to remember is, that when you solve quadratic formula, you're just solving for the x-intercepts, just like we did when we factored the polynomial. Different paths to the same location. Okay? All right, let's flip the page. Let's just do a little reminder here. X plus 6x. Well, that implies a 1x plus 6x. Don't we just add like terms? 7x. Yep. Okay, now we have constants. We have linear terms. We have to add like terms, right? So let's add the x's first. 6x plus 2x is 8x. 3 plus 4 is 7. All right, let's do a little multiplying. What is 1x times 5x? Well, 1 times 5 is 5. What's x times x? X squared. Okay. All right. Next one. Oh, we have 2 linear binomials multiplied. We know how to do this. Distribute the x. So we'd have x squared plus 2x distribute the negative 3, we'd have negative 3x minus 6. And now, add like terms. X squared, 2x minus 3x is minus 1x, and a minus 6. Okay. Excellent observation. Yeah, this is what we did on the back side, except this is backwards. Right? Okay. Now this next one is tricky because this involves a bunch of stuff. Order of operations, what do you do first? Multiply, divide, or add, subtract? Multiply, divide, parentheses first. So really what we have to do is we need to distribute this negative 3. So this is going to be, what is that going to be? Positive 21 minus 18x. And then we have negative 3x times 6x. Okay. Now we do the multiplication. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. X times x is x squared. Then we have the plus 21 minus 18x. Oh, all we have to do is put it in standard form. Minus 18x squared minus 18x plus 21. Did I do that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that positive affirmation. Okay.